Hi, everyone. My name is Bo Sanders, and I want to throw an idea out to you today that it may be time to embrace cynicism. Our cultural moment may be calling for it, and that it's not something to be resisted. Several years ago, I was part of a leadership development cohort of young people. And on the final day, before they sent us back to the places that we came from all over the globe, the leader encouraged us to stop working on our weaknesses. And this really caught my attention because up to that point, I had been under the impression that my primary job was to become a well-rounded person and leader and to bring up my weakest area so that it sort of matched everything else. And he said, no, put almost all of your energy into your area of strength and the thing that makes you unique. Only work on your weakness to the degree that it would disqualify you from ministry or cripple your leadership, take away your credibility. And I've always thought that was an interesting idea, and I logged it in the back of my head, and I've carried it around all of these years. And then once in a while, I see something and I think, this calls for that. I was recently out of the news cycle and the political arena for several weeks due to illness and then work stuff and then caring for family. And so I just was sort of out of the loop. And coming back into it has been really eye-opening. And I've noticed that when people are cynical or critical, that sometimes they have an internal message that's something a negative to be resisted. And they say, well, don't be so critical, or I don't want to be cynical. But I want to encourage you today that actually it might be the perfect time to be cynical. Several years ago, my friend Tad DeLay wrote a book called The Cynic and the Fool, and I was in conversation with him around that time. And I've noticed that as a culture, we are in a cynical moment of time, and that we're actually well rehearsed at being cynics. We're practiced at it. We're pretty good at it. Culturally, it's sort of our ethos right now. And yet individually, or sometimes in our spirituality, that has seen as a negative. But I wonder if it wouldn't be better for us to stop resisting being so cynical and embrace it, so that it compels us and propels us into action. So now, of course, you don't want to define yourself by what you're not. There's no fruit in that. There's nothing nourishing about defining yourself in contrast to somebody else or some other group and saying, I'm not like that. There's no fruit in that. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that because of how we participate in our society, especially in the media age, the society of spectacle is one of my favorite books, that there is an appropriateness to being cynical so that you aren't an easy target to the schemes and the lies that get proposed to us and put towards us every day. So, if you are watching the news or watching the political activity right now and feeling a little cynical, I just want to encourage you. It may be time to embrace that, to not resist it, but to actually take it in and sit with it and allow it to propel you or compel you to action. So that's my encouragement for today, that maybe this isn't something to be resisted, and maybe it's entirely appropriate for our moment, and that it's not a negative thing. Maybe it's the best thing in the world to realize, as Zizek says, that the light at the end of the tunnel is another oncoming train. Maybe a little cynicism isn't the worst thing in the world.